Yep, it's day number 60. It's game number 16. It's day number 13. It's New Zealand. It's Afghanistan. A lot of things to talk about. Hello, guys. Welcome to the preview. Game number 16. It's day number 13. Wait, why do I hear myself? A lot of things to talk about. All right, there seems to be some echo. Sorry. Not the greatest of starts, clearly. I guess, I asked Nikhil Bhai if he's over yesterday's game. Clearly, I'm the one reeling from yesterday's result. But no worries, yeah. Welcome to the preview of the New Zealand Afghanistan fixture. The game's happening in Chennai. Lots to look forward to. Can Afghanistan pull another upset? Can they defeat last World Cup's finalists in 2 games? 2 games in a row. Lots to look forward to. We've got Anirudh making his debut. We've got Nikhil Bhai, of course, as usual. Look, guys, how are we doing today, Anirudh? Are you over yesterday's game or are you still thinking about it?
I'm doing good, and I'm happy to make my World Cup debut, and I'm also very happy to make my World Cup debut on the back of Netherlands beating South Africa. So makes it even merrier that I'm making my debut on the back of such a massive upset. But hopefully we get another upset today. I just hope so.
Definitely, and Afghanistan probably have rights to be upset. Ki, bhai, you stole my thunder, dude. 3 दिन पहले उन्होंने खुद इंग्लैंड को हराया, वो the defending champions. और किसी दूसरे को टीम नहीं, and अचानक से they're not even being talked about. Everyone's like Netherlands, and rightly so, of course. So Nikhil bhai, looking forward to the game. Do you think it'll be a decent game to watch out for? Or are you expecting New Zealand to thump them over?
No, I don't think it will be a game where they can thumb them over. They can very well go ahead and do that, but maybe it's just a sign of things to come. That it's okay. You'll get new things to talk about every single day. And if there ever was a surface that Afghanistan will not mind playing New Zealand on, it will be Chennai. There is something to be seen though in terms of whether the pitch actually has a spin, or do we see a lot more bounce, which we saw in the previous encounter that we saw between New Zealand and Bangladesh. So if it's there hasn't been due so far in Chennai, even in the last game, even in the chase, you saw Bangladesh had their moments. Now Afghanistan do have a deeper bowling attack as compared to Bangladesh, so it shouldn't be as easy as you expect it to be. But yeah, we are all in for the underdogs every day, every single day.
Yeah, true. And since Nikhil bhai, you mentioned the surface, Anirudh, right now the pitch report, at least by the broadcasters, suggests that they expect it to be a belted of a surface and something similar to the previous game and not the first game. So we don't expect really spinners to get a lot of purchase. Of course, New Zealand haven't been, tested that way in terms of, a trial by spin or something like that, because Bangladesh had Shakib and Mehdi bowling for them. Mahmudullah didn't even get to bowl in the last game. Do you think the Afghan spinners would be able to, test them a lot more?
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully the wicket turns a bit for starters, because again, that's probably Afghanistan's only chance of beating New Zealand in this match. Because if it's a flat wicket, then I guess it favors New Zealand heavily. But even if we get a wicket like the one we saw in Delhi the other day, in which Afghanistan beat England, sure we could be in for a good contest. But one thing I'm really looking forward to is actually something that's very interesting is a lot of these New Zealand batters have not faced these Afghanistan spinners because they don't play a lot of T20 cricket. Will Young doesn't play franchise cricket. Ravindra doesn't play franchise cricket. Tom Latham doesn't play franchise cricket. Daryl Mitchell doesn't play franchise cricket. So, you know, if those guys can run through an England side which has faced Rashid and Mujib a lot in comparison to New Zealand, then the element of mystery still exists for Afghanistan against this New Zealand side, particularly because none of these New Zealand players would have seen these Afghan spinners except for like Conway and maybe a bit of Glenn Phillips. That's all. But this should work in Afghanistan's favor, provided there is assistance provided by the Chennai surface, which we hope that they get.
Pranav Anand with the first comment, of the day, he says, broadcaster ne bola belter, matlab there'll be decent grip and turn. This is Nikhil bhai's also rule of thumb, कि अगर इन लोगों ने बोला है तो भाई उल्टा ही सोचने का मतलब बनता, because again my mind goes back to the India Pakistan game. roll बोल के थक गए, to the point where even we thought कि हाँ भाई 300 350 तो बन जाएगा. Clearly that wasn't to be the case. But Nikhil bhai, a lot of interesting matchups to look out for, a lot of key battles to look out for. And Anirudh has already mentioned that, not a lot of Kiwi batters in particular have played franchise cricket, or rather have not played enough franchise cricket to, understand what to expect. So let's talk about a few key battles in this segment. Yep. Anirudh, let's start with you. Are there any particular matchups that you're looking forward to? Batter v bowler, bowling type v batter, something like that?
I mean, not particularly, but I would be interested to see how. I mean, I first of all, I hope Lockie Ferguson plays, because if it's a belt of a surface, then who knows? Like if it's a turning surface, then who knows? Ish Sodhi might come in, but I'm really interested to see how the Afghan middle order batters will handle Lockie Ferguson in particular, because you know Mark Wood slightly had an off game in Delhi, you could say. I mean, he did bowl well, but even though he was bowling poorly, he was able to trouble the Afghan batters a bit with his pace. You saw how Nabi got out; like he tried to fend Wood, and then he got I think a leading an edge that flew to gully. So, and we saw how hostile a spell Lockie Ferguson bowled against Bangladesh on this very Chennai surface. So if the wicket is similar, and if Lockie is in his element and he comes up with a short ball barrage, I can actually see the Afghan batters collapse against Ferguson's pace. I might be wrong, but I just feel that on these kind of surfaces, Ferguson becomes even more potent because of the variable bounce as well. So that is
True. I
one match.
mean, yeah, Lockie was very, very, very good in the last game, especially that short ball barrage, that Anirudh mentioned. Fantastic, fantastic performance by him. But before Lockie comes in, of course, there'll be the new ball spell by Trent Bolt and, of course, Matt Henry, who Anirudh has written a fantastic piece about. Guys, do check it out, if you haven't already. Nikhil bhai, new ball. We saw what Gurbaz and Zadran did. More Gurbaz, less Zadran, of course. But even then, and Chris Brooks wasn't at his best, to say the least. We can expect something better from Trent Bolt, right? Because if we look at some of his numbers, since 2022 in ODIs, the guy has an average of 13 and has a sub 4 economy in the power play. These are the kind of numbers you would expect from your primary new ball bowler. And when it is against a side like Afghanistan, who are very front loaded that way, like barring Gurbaz and Sadran, not a lot of runs have come from the lower order. You think he would be a very, very, very key proponent and central to New Zealand's plans today, right?
Yeah, 100%. And also, you have to look at the number of struggles that Abraham Zadran has had against left arm pace. He's someone who doesn't play it well, but at the same time, Gurbaz plays that well. But Gurbaz has faced one ball from 10 ball and has gotten out to him in that one ball that he's faced. So, uh, again, Afghanistan has opted to bowl first. So, they should be bowling. New Zealand will be bowling second. You expect some swing early on, if not a lot. So, very keen to see how that fans out, because Gurbaz and Ibrahim both have had a pattern where they do a lot better in the first innings, and averages of the partnership average is over 80, 90, but in the second innings it's less than 20. So they've both had their struggles in chase. So very keen to also hear the logic behind bowling first, because that will explain why they have bowled first. And the one matchup that I'm really looking forward to is if Gurbaz is able to survive Bolt, how does he play mid Sander? Because he may not play left arm space badly, but he has an average of 20 against left arm spin. And that is something, if Bolt doesn't get you, Sander will definitely come in. And Sander this year has bowled very well, which is surprising because before this World Cup, he wasn't taking a lot of wickets. But in this World Cup, he just found the right pace to bowl at the right wickets. So, 4 out of 7 times he's gotten out to left arm spin, and they have two of them, New Zealand. So him getting out early could go a long way deciding how long Afghanistan are there in the chase in terms of with the bat. So exciting to see firstly what is the intel for bowling first, because if they expect it to get better under lights, then there should still be some help early on, and that brings Afghanistan in the game as well.
That's true. And since you mentioned Gurbaz and how he has fared for Afghanistan, he's been by far their best batter in the recent past. He's been the only one who's been able to score those big runs, those centuries. In fact, the numbers here also clearly show that in ODI since 2022, he has the fourth most centuries for any international batter. That also goes on to show not just his performances, his individual performances, but also Afghanistan's dependence on him to get those big runs. Even in the last game, if not for that run out, we could have probably expected him to score that century and even go bigger and probably posted a bigger score. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be the case. But Anirudh, coming to the game now, New Zealand's batting first. They've got the likes of Conway, they've got the likes of Ravindra, they've got the likes of course, Will Young also coming in now that I'm forgetting King Williamson. Sorry, misses out thanks to that fracture. I mean, I'm guessing Williamson's now just looking for ways to get injured. But yeah, talking about their top three and how good their batting has been in general. What are
Yeah.
you expecting? Like, what are Afghanistan's sort of go-to options in terms of negating the Kiwi batters?
Look, I mean, they have to strike early. They have to strike early because once you let New Zealand stop order settle in, they just find a way to maneuver strike and just they just find a way to milk the runs and set up a good platform. So Afghanistan have to strike early, which is something that's not happened in this tournament so far because England took one early wicket, that's it. Bangladesh took one early wicket, that's it. Netherlands probably only took a wicket after 70 or 80 runs. New Zealand have not been jolted early like twice or thrice in this tournament, which means the middle order has not been put under enough pressure so far. So that is something Afghanistan have to look to do. Again, it depends on Mujib and Faruqi in this instance. But like I said, they can also probably try Omar Zai a couple of overs if there is enough swing in the they figure that there is enough swing, then they could probably bring in Omar Zai because then if he takes the ball away from someone like a Conway could be an inside edge candidate. We've seen it time and again how he kind of goes for those drives and he inside edges the ball back onto his stumps. And also Will Young in general, again, he will not have great rhythm because he's been in and out of the side for a while now. So trouble him with early swing, you could probably find a nick or get through the gate or something like that. But without question, the only way I can see Afghanistan winning this is if they restrict New Zealand below 250. Anything about 250, I just feel that this Afghan batting lineup it'll have to be a massive effort from the whole group to chase, even if the conditions are favorable, even if dew sets in. It's not going to be easy chasing 250 plus against New Zealand on especially in Chennai, because you saw what the ball did for Bangladesh under lights the other day. Bangladesh could have easily taken 2-3 New Zealand wickets. So if there is same kind of help for the New Zealand bowlers, then I simply don't think the Afghan batters will be able to handle it. So at all costs, restrict New Zealand under 250. That must be Afghanistan's target, in my opinion.
Definitely, and when you mentioned Omar Shai bowling up top, you could see Nikhil Bhai's reaction. You've seen Sachin Paji also tweeting कि भाई खिला दो उसको new ball दो यार उसका है अच्छा wrist position and all of that. Let's see if Jonathan Trott decides to take Sachin Paji's advice. No one else. And but of course Anirudh, some very good points in terms of Conway and how to get him out. Of course, he has been beaten on the inside several times this year alone. We had this graphic before. Let's have it up once again. Devin Conway and how consistent he's been in this World Cup. Three matches. He's right now the second highest run scorer. 229 runs, an average in excess of 100, a strike rate in excess of 100. You couldn't have asked more from your opener, Nikhil Bhai. What do you think? Like today against I wouldn't say depleted, but slightly mediocre new ball bowling attack of Afghanistan, you would expect Conway to come good, right?
I'm slightly torn between two ideas right now because, of course, I want Conway to keep doing well because we've talked about it even during the IPL that he's the kind of guy when he gets going in terms of scoring runs, he'll give you consistent starts. He may not always look at his fluent best, which was in the case in the last game as well. So it's about how you start versus him. The Netherlands game, if you go back to that game, they had three maidens on the trot while batting first, and that's where I expect that Afghanistan with Nabi, with Mujib, with Fazal, with Omar Zai, whoever you want to bowl, just try and have that control for a longer period of time. Because New Zealand are a side that rarely, they are a side that probably makes the least mistakes. And that is something that you often see with them that tactically they may try a few things, but they won't give it out to you just like that. So that's where I'm expecting a bit of tactical battle to go on as well because as Anirudh also said and you also pointed out, there are holes in that middle order for you to exploit. If you get Daryl Mitchell on very early and if the ball is doing just a bit, he plays spin well. But then doing that when your side is 20 for 3 might be something that you'll want to see more of. And if he can end up scoring a ton from there, nothing like it. You have Glenn Phillips as well. So that is how I expect them to use that new ball battle because Conway, if he gets set, he's not going to give you chances. So that is why getting Conway out is very critical. And here is where I also hope Naveen is used well because this is the kind of surface where we talked about using Navin in Lucknow, that hold a bit of grip, the kind of role that we expect from Harshal Patel at times, that you get that uneven bounce, and those cutters can work. But it's about finding the right length. And every team so far in this World Cup, they've struggled. Even South Africa struggled with that in yesterday. That they kept bowling short, but Netherlands kept getting runs. So it's not that Netherlands were out of it, even despite losing a lot of wickets. So uh, hopefully they get. Well, I don't want a Conway failure. So probably a good 40 for Conway, and then wickets for Afghanistan, so that we have a good chase.
Also, I just want to add one more point. So Nikhil spoke about how New Zealand don't mistakes. So I was checking something prior to the match, and I found out that two of their batters, which is in this World Cup, Ravindra and Daryl Mitchell, are among the top three lowest dot ball percentages. So Afghanistan, I feel, have to find a way to cut out the singles and let New Zealand go for it. Like, it's okay, just take it on, keep the field up. If Daryl Mitchell has to take a risk and take a boundary, then fair enough. But
Yeah,
just don't give Conway, Mitchell, Ravindra, and all these people easy singles and turn over strike easily, because
yeah,
that is something England did not do well at all in that previous match. But New Zealand are simply too good when it comes to manipulating the field. So build pressure, but don't be afraid to concede boundaries at the same time. It's more about how you set up one particular batter rather than thinking, okay, we can get away with 5 runs this over, we can get away with 6 runs. Don't be in that mindset, but rather just go for it, thinking that, okay, it's okay if we lose by 180 runs, but our best chance of winning this match is bowling out New Zealand, asking them to make mistakes, take risks, and then chasing down whatever they put up. So that must be
Definitely, yeah.
Afghanistan.
Anirudh doesn't believe in thinking small. See the 180, 180 runs. No 80, no 80, nothing. But since you mentioned Ravindra having one of the lowest, dot ball percentages, it comes as no surprise that in terms of batting strike rates, this year he's been right at the top. In fact, amongst New Zealand batters in ODIs this year, he ranks number 2, only behind Michael Bracewell, who bats at number 7, number 8. So his high strike rate is expected. For a top order batter to have a strike rate in excess of 110, 113 to be precise, bodes well for the Kiwi lineup. And of course, like you mentioned, maybe the idea for Afghanistan would be to try and bait them to go for those boundaries. And yeah, if they do get them, so be it. Fair enough, fair play. You can't do much about it. So yeah, let's take a few comments before we move on to the next segment, because a couple of very, very, very interesting questions. Let's start with Pranav Anand's question. He says, or rather, he asks, New Zealand doesn't really trust Saudi at this point. It seems could have easily played at least one game so far if that was the case. Even today, I mean, wasn't there a case to be made that he could have come in place of, say, Chapman, if not one of the pacers? Anirudh, probably you could start.
I mean, I find it rather this way. I feel that this is New Zealand having complete clarity and belief over what they want to do, what their 11 should be like. So I remember when Williams scored that 70 odd against Netherlands, people are saying, okay, Williamson will replace Chapman. Williams scored a 70. Now he won't get dropped. But New Zealand are clear that Mark Chapman is someone who adds great batting depth at number 7, number 6, and he's a very good player of spin, and they are completely clear that, okay, the Chapman is gonna play. And also they are also not getting fooled by the reputation of certain wickets, like, okay, Chennai means we have to play 3 spinners, Chennai means we have to play these many fast bowlers. And that particular choice of sticking with Lockie Ferguson, you saw what it did in that previous match against Bangladesh. And I would like to add that I think I just read that they are using the same pitch they used for the Bangladesh clash, which means that it's completely justified picking just Lockie Ferguson as a third seamer. Also, they have already Phillips, who's more than capable of bowling 6 to 8 overs, Rachin Ravindra, who's more than capable of bowling 6 to 8 overs, and Santner, who bowls 10 overs every match, obviously. So, in contrast, if you look at it this way, the bowling depth on the seam department is not great. Daryl Mitchell is not as good as Ravindra or Phillips when it comes to the equivalent of pace bowling, right? So why would you weaken your pace department and just have Matt Henry and Bolt, who are both predominantly new ball bowlers? So if they don't take wickets up front, you're in trouble then. And then also Sodhi's kind of bowler who is probably not as bad as Shadab when it comes to inconsistency, but he does have a long hop in him every over. So, unless and until it's a raging turner, I don't think Sodhi will get his opportunity. But and I also feel it's completely fine because New Zealand are completely balanced even without Sodhi because they have two left arm spinners and an off spinner. So even if they don't have the wrist spinning option, I think they have enough variety throughout their attack to just stick with what they have currently.
Nikhil bhai, do you concur? Like, do you agree with this? Because there's a very thin line between clarity and rigidity. Which side of the line do you think New Zealand is on right now?
See, the one thing that you can't argue against New Zealand is their reading of conditions, which is something you rarely see them getting wrong. So that clarity is again being reflected. And again, you could always argue with the point, but the thing is, it's worked for them. Now, you look at their bowling options. Okay, Santner, Rachindra, and you have three pacers, and you have Glenn Phillips as an option. So, do you really need an additional bowling option there? Because do you have depth and cover variety? Yes. Now, do you need additional batting depth? Because you could have a potential slip up against sides like Afghanistan. Then Mark Chapman is someone who can play spin well. So there he could add a lot more value. Today could be the perfect day for Chapman to be the X factor for New Zealand because but for that they'll have to lose a lot of wickets also. But we don't mind that as long as we are getting a good game. So there is logic and that's fine. And with Sodi, there is inconsistency. So that is something that you have to take into consideration as well that you will get this with this guy. But again, Afghanistan could really take him apart as well. So he could pick up a four, but also concede 70, 80 runs. So it's a barter that they don't want to go into for now.
Fair, all right. It'll be interesting to see how the surface plays because, of course, it is going to be the same surface that New Zealand played on versus Bangladesh a few days ago. But if it turns out to be the same surface, I mean, if it turns out to play out just like it did in the last game, then yeah, New Zealand definitely are going to start favorites. A couple of comments to take before we move on to the next segment. Sanjay says, every big team is kind of rooting for Afghanistan today. New Zealand loss today would make the fight for the top four even more interesting. Correction, Sanjay. Every team is kind of rooting for Afghanistan. I don't think big or small matters here. Everyone is. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, do you see any team who's supporting New Zealand, barring, of course, Kiwi supporters, outside New Zealand? Do you see geographically any other location in favor of New Zealand today? Nikhil, bhai, you can take this first.
Now, you see, eventually we all want a great game, and eventually results may go here and there. But this format needs more teams to come good, and that will only happen if you have results like you had yesterday coming through on a more regular basis. So it does mean that you could have a Pune scalp as well, another Pune scalp, but let's not go there.
I feel India will be rooting for New Zealand because if India and New Zealand finish 1 and 2, they won't have to face them in the semi-finals. So maybe India are hoping that New Zealand just lose one match, which is against India, and then win 7 matches, and
But
then
then
so that
India will not mind New Zealand at Wankhede. I think they shouldn't, but then we don't know.
probably.
That's also a
So,
very good point. Like between Wankhede and Ahmedabad, I'm pretty sure India would rather play them in Wankhede than Ahmedabad. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah, that'll be interesting. And guys, many of you watching, please make sure you're hitting the like button. Make sure you're liking the stream, and make sure you subscribe to us if you haven't already. Liking the stream helps YouTube promote the video further. That's how the algorithm works. Fortunately, we have no option but to also make sure to remind you guys. So please do that. Couple more comments. Every time I say a couple more comments, a couple more interesting ones come, and I'm like, okay, let's just take these. Let's just take these. But yeah, we'll finish them and go on to the next segment. Paris Arora is being a bit harsh to El Presidente, I feel. He says Mohammad Nabi's batting probably hasn't been that great and they should have considered Noor Ahmed in the Chennai games. Bhai, last game mein Malan sabka wicket nikala, itna acha bowling karke aa rahe. Anirudh, what do you think? Is there any merit to this?
I don't know how the surface is going to play out, but if it's a raging turner, for example, I feel they should play Noor Ahmed in place of Rahmat Shah, actually. Because I don't see Rahmat Shah adding any value as of this moment. He's averaging like 18 this year. His strike rate for this year is 72, which is two more than his career strike rate of 70, which is a great improvement if you look at it. So, but again, unfortunately, I don't think his batting cuts it I feel like cricket has evolved beyond players like Rahmat Shah right now. But cut this video because I'm sure he's going to score a 80-ball century today and lead Afghanistan to victory.
Always more than happy to see that. And also we were going to bring up Rahmat Shah's leg spin bowling as well. He is a part-time leg spinner. अभी use
But
करेंगे कि नहीं, वो अलग बात है. Yeah.
But the thing is, to just finish up on this comment, I feel the only place they could have potentially, realistically, they would have thought playing Noor Ahmed is in place of Azmatullah. But since Azmatullah has been batting really well, I feel that that option is out of the window right now. So unfortunately, the other option is probably, say if Ikram Alikil had failed in that England match and he had failed today as well, maybe that option would have opened up. But now Ikram Alikil has also kind of sealed his spot in the starting 11. So it's harsh, but look, maybe if there's an absolute raging turner, maybe they can drop Naveen ul Haq and play, or Fazal Haq and play Noor Ahmed. But unfortunately, it feels like Noor Ahmed is just unlucky to be born in front of in the same team as Mujib, Rashid, Nabi. I mean, you're talking guys like Zahir Khan and Qais Ahmed who would start for several teams. They've not played more than 10 ODIs or 10 T20Is for Afghanistan. So Noor will have to wait for his time, especially because Rashid and Mujib are still like youngsters who are less than 25 years old. So, like he has to wait a decade. Who knows?
Okay. भाई संजय तो डायरेक्टली कैप्टन को ही हटा दिए. वो कह रहे लेट्स रिमूव हशमत, कैप्टनसी राशिद को दो and bring in Noor instead of the Hashmat. Of course, nothing like this is going to happen during the World Cup. So, I mean, let's move on to the next segment now.
Askar Afghan got kicked out mid-World Cup, didn't he? So you never know with Afghanistan. So
that's
but then he wasn't scoring. Shahid's had decent knocks. It's just been the pace of it. So hopefully he doesn't get out of Glenn Phillips, please.
All right. Time for us to talk about our X Factor in this next segment. X Factor players, we have plenty of them on both sides. There's so many names that I can think of, and clearly no single name that can be pointed out easily. Anirudh, let's start with you. Who do you think is going to be your X Factor player today?
I can name any side or any player.
One from each or one for the game if you want to go that way.
Okay, I'll go for one from each. So, I get the funny feeling I'm going to go with Ibrahim Zadran for Afghanistan. Although I'll tell this one thing, he has to cut out his dot ball percentage because it's the highest of any batter right now in this World Cup. I checked it, 65% nearly. And you saw what happened in the Delhi match. Like he was denying Rahmanullah Gurbaz's strike when Gurbaz was batting like a dream, and that kind of killed the momentum for Afghanistan a bit. So, but I'm going with Ibrahim Zadran for no particular reason. I just feel that he's due a 50 or something. For New Zealand, who should I go with? I'll go with Rachin Ravindra. I just feel he could have a good solid 2 or 3 for the ball as well today. I don't know. Who knows?
All right, Nikhil bhai, what names are you thinking of?
So for New Zealand, I think Daryl Mitchell can have a good day out. Again, he has a lot of time while batting first. He's been in good touch. So Daryl Mitchell, again, not expecting him to bowl much. Glenn Phillips will immediately come on to bowl. So Wo is a good option there for New Zealand to bat. And from Afghanistan, the spinners are obviously key, but I've already hyped up Naveen a lot. So I'll stick with Naveen that he could bowl in key facets of the game today. They don't use Omarzai well. Omarzai will be my perennial fixed X factor for every Afghanistan game. But hopefully today is the day. Who knows? So Naveen and Daryl Mitchell. And I agree with Rachin. Rachin call as well. I just hope that this pitch is a good one, because if not, then if it gets better to bat, it will be good test for New Zealand. But for that, Afghanistan also has to stay in the game, because otherwise it will not be. It will end up being one-sided. So let's see.
All right. Not that anyone asked, but my X Factor player would be Rashid Khan. I know it seems like an obvious choice, but the reason I am going ahead with him because, like Anirudh mentioned before, not a lot of Kiwi batters have faced them enough. The likes of Will Young, the likes of Rachin Ravindra, the likes of even Daryl Mitchell for that matter. They haven't faced them enough. Those fastest leg spinners aren't that easy to play, especially in a surface like Chennai, where there'll also be a bit of bounce, a bit of skid. You never know. Rashid Khan could be, the point of difference between the two teams. he has too many, good days, and let's hope today is one of those good days where he gets one of those 5 firsts or 6 firsts. So let's hope, fingers crossed on that. A lot of people have gone for, of course, the likes of Rashid Khan, the likes of even Joel Wilson. Akash, I hope you're doing well, man, because I was in Bangalore and unfortunately wasn't able to meet you then. Let's hope you also get well soon. And Pranav says, hopefully no run-outs in the second innings. Yeah, man, let's hope that doesn't turn out to be the case. But coming to our predictions, again, first innings, New Zealand's going to bat. Seems like a very good surface if we are to believe what the broadcasters have told us. And if we are to also go by what we saw in the last game, the Bangladesh-New Zealand game, Bangladesh managed to score 245 despite none of the batters kicking on to score, big runs, to put it simply. So, Anirudh, let's start with you. How much are you expecting New Zealand to score today in the first innings?
Between 320 and 340.
Again, no half measure.
No half measure. It's just being Anirudh, which is good. I'll stick with VVS. I'm hoping there should be some grip. Use surface hai, use deck, so expecting some grip, some help. And then you have 4 good bowlers who can contain in Navi, Mujib, Rashid, and Naveen also. Naveen as well. So hopefully, Pranav Anand 281 is my call with VVS. So let's see. 320 रहेगा तो the chase might not be something to keep an eye on unless you have another special, which looks unlikely. But again, कल के बाद तो और भी कुछ नहीं बोलने का.
Zadran 150.
Yeah. Who knows?
All right, 285 Pranav, 282 says Abhas, and of course Nikhil by saying 281. VVS Lakshman is what he's gone ahead with. I'll probably go with MS Dhoni that way, 224. I'm hoping New Zealand are If Anirudh's being on the other end of the spectrum, we need to balance it out, na thoda aisa, ताकि average Nikhil bhai ke paas hi rahe. Hum dono ki. So I'm hoping MS Dhoni's number is not beats. It is happening in his second home, Chennai. So you never know. Maybe. वो क्या बोलते हैं कुदरत का निजाम, how they put it. Let's hope that turns out to be the case. 224 is how much Afghanistan restrict New Zealand to, because that I feel realistically, if they are able to do that, it's a huge task. It won't be easy. Fair to say, second innings, then Afghanistan would even potentially start favourites if 225 is what they'd be chasing, for example. Or am I sort of jumping the gun?
No, they'll still have to play well because I don't think Bolt will be easy under lights. Rest they can probably manage. Ferguson also, it depends on the start they get as Bolt. If they're able to take care of Bolt, so you still feel okay, they could be in with a decent amount of chance.
I think they were chasing a 220-ish score against India in the 2019 World Cup, and they did start as 51-49 favorites, and they still couldn't get the job done. So it's always easier to defend a score if you are a weaker team. It's not easy to chase a score because of the pressure that comes with chasing, I guess. So
no, that's actually a very good point. Yeah, come to think of it, the more I think of upsets, even Afghanistan and Netherlands for that matter, both of them won the game defending. And Ireland did win the game chasing, but all right, fair shout. Let's hope Afghanistan are able to restrict. Who are they playing? New Zealand, of course they are playing New Zealand. How can I forget that? Matches chalte kya kare? Bhul jate hain. Because I was still thinking of Logan Van Beek and his length balls. उसके चक्कर में इसीलिए हाँ जल्दी
definitely not over the last game. ठीक है, आगे बढ़ते.
आगे बढ़ने के लिए कुछ खास है नहीं. It's already game time. The first ball will be bowled any moment now. Let's hope we have a crackerjack of a game so that we can also talk more about it. Let's hope this turns out to be another historic game for Afghanistan. Fingers crossed on that. It's been great talking to you guys, Anirudh and Nikhil bhai. Let's hope that we have a great game for us as well. And Nikhil bhai, let's hope your predictions turn out to be true. Your fantasy game also comes out to be good. I mean, you also have a good day fantasy-wise as well. See you guys at the end of the game. That's it from us. Make sure you've hit the like button if you haven't already. And guys, also make sure you've subscribed to us if you haven't already. That's it from us. Thank you. Have a great game. Goodbye.
Cheers.